One of the other things that you're very well known for is, I mean, I've touched on connectivity, but in terms of your engagement with multi sort of organisations. So, one of those initiatives is the ladder you've spearheaded. So, talk to us a little bit about, the idea behind the ladder. I'll just use that term,
Of course.
and what does that mean, and really the journey, if you can, specifically, and for those people that don't know, just go into a little bit detail as well.
Of course. So my journey with the ladder starts with a gentleman that most people know, called Kevin Davis, and Kevin is a very passionate person that wants to make a difference in people's lives, and he felt there was a type of school missing in Walsall, which was a studio school, which essentially, for those people that don't know, is more of a vocational school. And that was the first time that Kevin approached me to, would I sit on the studio school board, because employer engagement was a critical part of that school, of work experience and finding out what employers wanted the skills that they wanted school leavers to have. So beside that, I believe it would have been the LSC at the time, we're talking to providers and colleges about saying there are a lot of organisations that have never taken on an apprentice, and we want to set up a working party to engage with these organisations and try and do a matching process. And the third part is some of the meetings we had organisations that happen mostly to be colleges that would be saying, we've got all these individuals but we haven't got vacancies with employers. And you had lots of private providers that had vacancies with employers but didn't have the individuals. And it just seemed a little bit madness to me that we were all a little bit insular with, well, these are my vacancies, so I'm not going to give them to you, and these are my individuals, so I'm not going to give them to you. But there was a place for a matching service there, so ultimately the individual and the employer were the winners, because we find the right person on the right programme and we fill the vacancy. And that was a real challenge to get organisations, and I understand why, to buy into this partnership. Now, the patron of studio schools, which I won't go into detail who that was, but he came to visit Walsall and open the studio school. And afterwards, when we were talking to his team, one of his colleagues spoke to me about the Ladder for London, which was an initiative that was set up with the Evening Standard, the mayor at the time, which was Boris Johnson, and the provider network. And they set up a target to get 500 neat individuals in blue chip organisations, which would be supported by the Evening Standard by giving really good success stories about apprenticeships in London. And long story short, Saf, myself and Kevin sat in his office when everyone had gone, and I said, I think there's a real opportunity here for us to bring this Ladder for London up to the Black Country and use that tool with an organisation such as the Chamber of Commerce, the councils, the Express and Star, to really sell to individuals the impact an apprenticeship can have. And that's when the Ladder for the Black Country was born. And I have to say, Kevin was a huge part of that in engaging with partners, with myself. And that started 10 years ago. And 10 years on, we've got Ladder for Black Country, Ladder for Staffordshire, Ladder for Shropshire, Ladder for Greater Birmingham, 10,000 apprenticeship starts through Ladder Partners. We'd taken apprentices to Parliament, St James's Palace, Buckingham Palace. And I have to just add, because this is all really important with the brand, we had a positive impact with, such as taking the 15 apprentices to Parliament to meet with Robert Halfon. While we were standing in the reception area of Parliament, there was a young apprentice, Ashok, who looked quite confused, a little bit disturbed, and I went over to him and said, "Are you okay, Ashok? Are you well?" And he looked at me and said, "Things like this don't happen to people like me." And he went on to tell me the story that when he mentioned to his parents that he was being taken to Parliament to meet Robert Halfon, they didn't believe him. And his mother followed the coach in her car just so she could get into London, so she could take a photograph of him going into Parliament. And that might seem quite a small thing to some people, but to him and his family, it was a huge thing. And at the end, him saying to us that, I think things that were impossible are suddenly possible for me now. And, you know, for every 10 people that we have dealings with, if only two or three are suddenly thinking like that, then we've done our job correctly, and that's what we continue to want to do.
Canny Conversation Podcast Series 5 by Safaraz Ali.